From the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The All Indiana Podcast Network.
This is the News 8 Daily 8.
Now the latest news.
Kylie Conway has all the news you need to know.
And more.
Please stand by.
Now, here's Wish TV's Kylie Conway.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is the News 8 Daily 8 for Friday, July 17th. After a hot day, expect a very warm night as temperatures fall from the 80s this evening to the 70s overnight with a low of 72. Tomorrow, another hot and humid day. Temperatures will warm to the low 90s. Two men face charges now in connection with the altercation at Lake Monroe on July 4th. And they're more serious than the suggestions we laid out for you yesterday in the DNR report. Sean Purdy, the man who held Vox Booker against a tree, faces 3 felonies: criminal confinement, battery, and intimidation. Jerry Cox has been charged with aiding, inducing, or causing criminal confinement, battery resulting in moderate bodily injury, intimidation, and battery. DNR conservation officers were called about 8:10 p.m. July 4th to an altercation between two groups of people southeast of Bloomington on the shore of Lake Monroe. We've been following this since that happened. And one group was camping on the property owned by Bruce McCord. The other group was camping in the Hoosier National Forest. The report said the altercation involved Vox Booker, who is a member of the Monroe County Human Rights Commission, Sean Purdy, the boyfriend of McCord's daughter, and Jerry Bubba Cox, Sean's boss and friend. Booker has said the altercation was racially motivated and involved dialogue about a rope and a noose. But Booker, through his attorney, rejected 2 requests for interviews with conservation officers about what happened. In a statement from Booker's publicist to the news media, Booker's lawyer has referred to the altercation as an attempted lynching and violent prejudice-fueled attack. Booker met July 13th with FBI agents. In a news conference Friday at People's Park in Bloomington, Booker called for a grand jury to investigate the altercation. That was last Friday. In the DNR case, data reported the altercation at Lake Monroe had suggested the following criminal charges: Sean Purdy, a felony count of criminal confinement and a misdemeanor count of battery; Vox Booker, 2 misdemeanor counts of battery and a misdemeanor count of criminal trespass; and Jerry Cox, 2 misdemeanor counts of battery; Ian Watkins, a misdemeanor count of criminal trespass. So those were recommendations that we'd read yesterday, but clearly those have become more serious for the first 2 people charged, that's Sean Purdy and Jerry Cox. And so far, no charges have been filed against Booker. The family of a woman murdered along the canal is begging the community to help find the shooter. This comes as they held a prayer service in Jessica Doty Whitaker's honor this afternoon near the spot where she was killed. Doty Whitaker's family says she and her fiancé were with a group of friends on the canal when they got into an argument with another group. They say Jessica, or one of her friends, shouted, "All lives matter." Minutes later, she was shot and killed. This was Sunday, July 5th. Jessica's family is now searching for answers. Several members honored her on the canal, the place they say she loved to visit most. They also shared concerns about the increase in violence in the city. Just this week, IMPD released some security footage of possible witnesses and people of interest in Whitaker's death. Doty Whitaker's mother, Arlena Doty, says she can't rest until the person responsible is found. Doty Whitaker leaves behind a fiancé and 3-year-old son. Her family will hold a Justice for Jessica rally on July 25th at Military Park. Franklin Community School students will go back to class 2 weeks later than planned. The district says the first day of school will be August 17th. Leaders say that should give them extra time to address class sizes, teacher placements, and additional safety measures. The district says 12% of students are signed up for virtual learning so far, which is more than expected. The Johnson County Health Department will now review that plan. The Indiana State School Music Association says all of its live marching band events are canceled. Marching Pride of Lawrence Township had started rehearsing virtually over Zoom in June and just resumed in-person practice this week. They say they thought the season might have been canceled, but it doesn't make it any less disappointing to hear. They know, especially for seniors, this is upsetting news, but they don't want the year to go to waste. They'll still perform at football games and are looking into live streaming options for fans. They say even with fewer performances, the show won't be any easier and the marching band experience won't be lost. Marching Pride says the cancellation gives them the opportunity to make band more accessible to students this year. They'll also have more time to focus on preparing next year's show, which is already in the works. ISSMA said this afternoon that they acknowledge the disappointment and hope they'll be able to return to live marching events in 2021. State health officials added 747 new Hoosier COVID-19 cases to the statewide total. More than 54,800 people have now been diagnosed. 8 more Hoosiers have died. That brings the death toll to 2,610. Masks will now be required in public in Bloomington. That begins immediately. And masks will also be required on IU's campus starting the 31st. The city also says gatherings of more than 50 people are not allowed. And today we're seeing which Americans are more likely to wear masks in public. It appears not as many Hoosiers had been wearing them as other regions. The New York Times actually created an interactive map. It shows mask use is the highest in the Northeast and West. The Plains, Midwest, and the South, not so much. The map shows in Indiana about 30% of people in Indianapolis are wearing masks. The number gets higher as you go north. The Times got this data from survey firm Dynata, which surveyed 250,000 people between July 2nd and the 14th. And several states have imposed mask mandates since those interviews. A new coronavirus task force report shows 18 states in a COVID red zone. It calls for those states to roll back reopening measures. The document hasn't been published. Nonprofit news outlet Center for Public Integrity released it today. The report includes recommendations to close bars and gyms and limits social gatherings to 10 people or fewer. Indiana is not on the list, but Georgia is, where the governor is suing Atlanta's mayor over her mask-wearing mandate. Several states began to outline plans for schools today. Texas will allow public schools to stay closed for the first 8 weeks of the school year. Texas just confirmed more than 10,000 new cases for the third straight day. In California, the governor said all students above second grade will wear masks. And Chicago public schools are ready to try a hybrid approach. All Purdue University students will have to take a COVID-19 saliva test before they can head to campus for fall classes. The school plans to send students a test kit in the mail. Students will then schedule a telehealth visit with a testing supervisor who will walk them through the test and packaging the sample for shipping to a lab. Results will be sent to the student and Purdue within 48 to 72 hours. Any student testing positive will have to quarantine for 14 days and be medically cleared before they'll be allowed on campus. Meijer will now require all customers to wear masks. That rule starts Monday. It applies to the company's 253 supercenters and grocery stores. The move follows similar ones by Walmart, Kroger, Target, CVS, Starbucks, and other major retailers. The Monumental Marathon, Half Marathon, and 5K, it's the latest big race to go virtual. Beyond Monumental canceled the in-person event set for November. It typically draws nearly 20,000 runners from across the country. If you still want to participate, you can run the same distance and submit your results online. Anyone who's already registered can defer their entry to 2021, donate the entry, or request a refund. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg says her cancer has returned, but she has no plans to retire from the Supreme Court. The 87-year-old said she's receiving chemotherapy, and so far, it has succeeded in reducing lesions on her liver. Ginsburg spent time in the hospital this week for a possible infection, but Ginsburg said it was unrelated to the cancer. The Confederate flag likely won't fly on any military property anymore. The Pentagon all but banned the symbol with a new policy. Defense Secretary Mark Esper signed the memo released today. It lists types of flags that can be displayed, but the Confederate flag is not among them. The memo states we must always remain focused on what unifies us. Some of the acceptable flags include the U.S. and state banners and flags of allies and partners. And Wish TV is proud to be your broadcast home of the Indy 11. The 11 hosts Sporting Kansas City 2 at Lucas Oil Stadium tomorrow night. You can watch all the live action starting at 7 p.m. on Wish TV. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway, online at wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
Check out more podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
allindianapodcastnetwork.com.